Well, friends, why don't we just, we'll get this sorted for next week. In the meantime, put your face close up to your camera if you want to, and smile and wave to each other. We'll get this sorted for next week, okay? And we'll now go into our introit. Thanks, Mike.
Listen, 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 listen. Lay yourself down on the rocks now. Let your body down in the river. Listen for the drumming on the other side. Lose yourself in the meantime. Lay yourself down on the rocks now. Let your body down in the river. Listen for the drumming on the other side. Lose yourself in the meantime. Listen. Lay yourself down on the rocks. Let your body be your rest. Let your body down. Let the water descend. Listen for the drumming on the other side. Lose yourself in the meantime. Listen. Lay yourself down on the rocks. Let your body be your rest. Let your body down. Let the water descend. Listen for the drumming on the other side. Lose yourself in the meantime. Listen. Lay yourself down on the rocks. Let your body be your rest. Let your body down. Let the water descend. Listen for the drumming on the other side. Lose yourself in the meantime. Lay yourself down on the rocks now. Let your body down in the river. Listen for the drumming on the other side. Lose yourself in the meantime. Listen, 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 listen.
Now we will have our responsive reading. I will be reading the one part, Emma will be reading the many. Please follow along with the slides that should be up on the screen soon. Listening, then, has a spiritual dimension. It suggests that I am not the center of the cosmos, but rather one source of words among others.
It implies that I have no monopoly on wisdom, that true wisdom may be found in listening.
Listen. Listen to what others have to say.
There is wisdom in all you meet.
Listen to the sounds of nature.
It speaks and sings and makes music.
For those who pay attention.
Listen to the impulses of your spirit.
Take time to hear your inner yearnings.
That still, small voice drowned in the rashest shout.
Listen, this is a noisy world.
Perhaps
this year we will listen.
And now we'll be listening to a piece that was put together by our youth, Andy, Emma, and Arwen. It's Outnumber by Dermot Kennedy.
Listen.
Please hold as we sort some things out.
Tell me this is all for nothing. I can only tell you one thing. On the nights you feel outnumbered, baby, I'll be out there somewhere. I see everything you can be. I see the beauty that you can't see. On the nights you feel outnumbered, baby, I'll be out there somewhere.
I could have showed you all the scars at the start, but that was always the most difficult part. See, I'm in love with how your soul's a mix of chaos and art, and now you never try to keep them apart. I wrote some words and then I stared at my feet, became a coward when I needed to speak. I guess love took on a different kind of meaning for me, so when I go, just know it kills me to leave.
To all the stars that light the road, don't ever leave the girl so cold. Never let me down, just leave me home.
Don't tell me this is all for nothing. I can only tell you one thing. On the nights you feel outnumbered, baby, I'll be out there somewhere. I see everything you can be. I see the beauty that you can't see. On the nights you feel outnumbered, baby, I'll be out there somewhere.
But there's a beauty here that's yet to depart. There's still a song inside the halls in the dark. I'll come for you if you just stay where you are, and I'll always hold your hand in the car. There'll be days when it's difficult, but I ask you never leave behind the reciprocal. We're past that. Love is not designed for the cynical, so we have that. We can have that.
Don't tell me this is all for nothing. I can only tell you one thing. On the nights you feel outnumbered, baby, I'll be out there somewhere. I see everything you can be. I see the beauty that you can't see. On the nights you feel outnumbered, baby, I'll be out there somewhere.
Each week, we are inviting children in our congregation to light our chalice and lead our covenant. This week, Jack and Jonah Lesica will light our chalice and say our covenant. Please join along at home with our covenant, which is in the chat box.
Light it. Okay.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another.
Hello and good morning. I'd like to welcome any younger folks to come towards the camera for our Wonder Box this morning. Here's our Wonder Box this morning. Good morning, as I already said. I'm Arwen Gormley, for those of you who don't know me. So yesterday, I went for a walk in the woods with my mom, and I couldn't help but notice all the beautiful foliage on the trees, and I was reminded of one reason I love fall. And another reason I love fall is some of the fun holidays that happen in fall. If you like, you can type in the chat box some of your favorite fall holidays, and I'll read them out. You can do it, or your older family member can type in the chat. Cider donut holiday, Halloween, Thanksgiving, yep. Halloween, says Susanna. Thanksgiving, Easter, pie baking, Thanksgiving, Halloween, her birthday, your mom's birthday, the day that pumpkin spice lattes come back, love it, apple picking, Starbucks cup challenge day, pumpkin picking, my birthday, happy birthday, Reverend Nathan, Christmas, All Souls Day, good sleeping weather, Campbell's birthday, apple pie. All right, fire pits, yes. All of these are great. My husband's and daughter's birthdays, Applepalooza. I love all these responses. Some of the holidays that come to my mind are Thanksgiving and Halloween. And Halloween is just around the corner next week, next Saturday. And one of my favorite aspects of Halloween is that we get to dress up. So that's the first thing we have in our Wonder Box today. Just a little warning, this thing coming out of the Wonder Box may not be so wonderful for all audiences. So don't be too scared. I'm gonna take it out. My mom's gonna take it out of the Wonder Box. Okay, so we have a mask that I could wear during Halloween. A little, yeah. So when I put on this mask, I look pretty scary, right? But underneath the mask, you know, it's still me. I don't know how much you can hear me, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna put it back on, and I want you to type in the chat box why you know it's still me underneath the mask. I'm gonna put it back on. Is it something about my voice? Is it my hair, my personality? What about under the mask makes you remember that it's me? Okay, so my eyes, I have the same voice, object permanence. I seem like I'm smiling. My giggles, my hair, yep, my eyes and my voice. The way I move my body when I speak, yeah. My shirt, yep, it's the same. Lovely. Okay, I'm gonna take this off again. Laughter will always be a tell. I love it. So, even though you may have a scary mask on when you go trick-or-treating, you still ask trick or treat, right? And you'd be pretty disappointed if people were like, hey, you look scary, so you don't get a treat. So it's pretty important that we listen to people even when they have a little bit of a scary mask on. Similarly, another thing we have in our Wonder Box this morning, I'm gonna take it out, is one of these masks. There are different kind of masks we can wear. And this is, you've probably seen it around, a medical mask that a lot of us are wearing for our safety right now. And even though this medical mask can feel kind of like a barrier against connection, it's still important that we listen to the people behind the masks. And sometimes people can put on masks when they're sad or they're angry, or they feel like they don't want the world to see how they're feeling inside. And people can misinterpret this as something a little bit scary or something they're put off by. But underneath, we know that these people are still the same people, and often they're struggling even more when they put these masks on. Often they actually need to be listened to more, even though they put up this wall, this barrier against connection, but what they really could use is a listening ear. So like at Halloween, it's important to remember that when they ask trick or treat and you have plenty of treats to offer, that you offer them that treat of listening, because sometimes it's the biggest treat you can give.
Thank you so much, Arwen. This month leading up to the election, we are having testimonials each week about what it means to some members of our community to vote love. And this morning's testimonial will be offered by Emma Paul, a member of our youth group. Emma, thank you so much for sharing with us what it means to vote love to you.
Thank you, Heather. All right, here we go. Hello, my name is Emma Paul. I'm a member of the senior youth group in this Unitarian Universalist church community. Today, I am here to give a testimonial about what voting love means to me. First of all, voting love requires voting. I have realized how truly powerful voting is, especially because I'm missing the ability to vote in this crucial election by only a few months. This fact makes me feel so small, and quite frankly, it frustrates me. However, I use that frustration to motivate me to help the causes and the people I care about in other ways. Just because I can't vote doesn't mean that I can't spread the word of why others should. One's vote is one's voice, and thus the power of a vote is great. Each and every one of us is instrumental in this election. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has, Margaret Mead once said. If you are angry with how our leaders have handled this pandemic, if you disagree with the policies that our leaders have enacted, if you are outraged by the childish manner in which our leaders have presented themselves, vote. If you wake up every day scared you'll be deported, if you wake up wondering if you'll still have a job, if you're numb because of all that's happened this year, vote. Vote with love. Vote for yourself, and more importantly, vote for others. Vote for those of us who can't, like me. If you yourself don't have a reason to vote, think about the people around you who do and vote for them. Our current president is demolishing all that we stand for and all that we love. You don't need me to tell you that there are a lot of problems that need fixing. Our climate crisis and the fact that our world is dying and it's our fault, discrimination against Black people, LGBTQIA+ people, women, and anyone who threatens a white male-dominated society. But do not despair, because there is something that we can all do about it. Our beloved Reverend Nathan Dietering often quotes Frederick Buchanan with the words, "Here is our world. Beautiful and terrible things happen. We can't do everything, but we can do something, and that is how the light gets in. And there truly is something that we can do, and that is to vote. Take all your anger, all your sadness, take all your frustration, and use it to motivate yourself to make a positive change. Your voice matters, and many people depend on it. The people like me who can't vote depend on it. The well-being of our future generations depends on it. So get out and vote, show your love to the causes and the people that you care about." Thank you.
After this time of listening and hearing, particularly from our youth who continue to give us so much hope, as Molly has just put into the chat box. Friends, it's been another full week in life and in the world and the news, so just find your center in your center. Put down your screens, maybe even close your eyes, and just be here in this moment as we enter into this time of meditation and prayer. We'll begin with our prayer hymn.
There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all we love. We rest in love holding us. We rest in love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all we love. We rest in love holding all. We rest in this love.
This morning, friends, we are privileged to look out into our sanctuary, the 3 candles there. And in these times of so much going on, it's important, I think, to center our gratitude and thanksgiving as much as we can. So I invite us first to use our chat box as usual, and please to list all those things that are prayers that we are feeling grateful for and in thanksgiving for this morning. The fall colors and wedding anniversaries, for grandparents who are joining service today, for this amazing group of young people, for my family, for our new puppy, for our beautiful sanctuary that will be there for us and with us when we can return, for Zoom through gloom, indeed, for the opportunity to speak, and for a welcoming community. And as these continue to come in, I invite us also to hold in our hearts and our prayers our loved ones, the people that we may be worried for, or just want to know and have them know that we love them. So please put those in as well, prayers for loved ones. For senior youth group, for parents joining us today, for India, for my brother, Sue. Will is 9 years on earth. For Aunt Marianne, for Lynn and Debbie, for my children, for the Handelman family, lost their husband and dad, for our new dog, Teddy, for my brother with MS, for my 99-year-old grandmother's healing from a leg break. She's in the hospital. For Ariana, and for the youth. And as we look out into our sanctuary together, you can see on to the right there the sunlight coming through the windows. This video was taken just this week. We now hold in our hearts all the prayers for the world. Our heart that is so big with all these prayers, I know. For all the kids separated from their families. For Nigeria, for a peaceful election. For all the people working across the country for a free and fair election, for peace and nonviolence during the election season, for our climate, for our world, for all the voters, for the people who recognize that the world is in this together. For those protecting the right to vote safely, and for the helpers. And as these continue to come in, friends, just please pray with me, remembering that prayer does not change things. Prayer changes people, and people change things. As we look out into our sanctuary, this is the place that we go to find and feel Sabbath, not from the world, but for the world. So for all the daily pressure of life that is weighing on our minds and hearts and our bodies, we need this morning to find time for Sabbath rest. And because of all the stresses of our culture that often leave us feeling overwhelmed and looking for hope, let us look out here onto the candles and the light and feel a time for Sabbath rest. Because we think more clearly and feel more freely and love more freely when we are rested. We come to this morning in time of Sabbath rest. Giver of life, help us to recognize when we need to stop and care for ourselves. Allow us to sink into this moment as often as we need one. Allow us to rest when we can without guilt, so that we can work again tomorrow with more purpose. And let us be held in these several moments of stillness, maybe the first for you in this entire week.
Our reading today is Religion at its Best by Sarah Gibb Millspaugh. Religion is as much about faith in humanity as it is about faith in deity. And many of us will find that over and over, our faith in humanity gets tested. We are immersed in a culture that is deeply corrupted by selfishness, greed, and oppression-born privilege and fear. It is all too easy for us to justify the dehumanization, ostracization, suffering, and death of others. It is all too easy for us to devalue some humans' lives and feel, somehow, like we're still good, upstanding, moral people. Religion at its best asks us to do better than this, to rise above the selfishness and status-seeking, the othering and xenophobia that comes so easily to us. Religion at its best, and our Unitarian Universalist faith, calls us to honor that which is sacred in each person, even though we might hate, even those who we find disgusting. It impels us to accept on faith that there is a sacred spark, a worthy spark in every person. This can sound mundane, but it is very radical, revolutionary even. Each person sacred, each person worthy. Accepting this on faith changes how we live. In this time, when so many of us live in fear of a dehumanizing political regime, let us renew our pledge to live out those sacred and humane teachings that draw us toward compassion, love, and justice in ever-widening circles of care.
Thank you, Nora, for sharing that. That reading actually comes from my former minister when I was a young person, and also the person that Reverend Heather worked with as a ministerial intern. So it's close to our hearts. We will now be taking the offering. So this week's recipient will be shared with Braver Angels. As a young person in America who exists primarily in echo chambers that reverberate my own views, I know how hard it can be to have thoughtful, nuanced, and compassionate conversations with folks who disagree with me. Recently, as I feel more and more justified in my politics and more isolated from understanding the points of view of others, I've been asking myself, does my moral compass and belief that I am right disallow me from seeing the humanity in others? Can our moral convictions keep us from actually achieving our moral convictions? Braver Angels is a citizens organization uniting red and blue Americans in a working alliance to depolarize America. Braver Angels helps Americans like you and I try to understand the other side's point of view, even if we don't agree with each other. Encouraging people to engage with those we disagree with and look for common ground and ways to work together. They support principles that bring people together rather than divide. Braver Angels knows that listening, although a seemingly small act, can be one of the most radical things we can do for one another as human beings. As you all perhaps know by now, we are collecting our offering through Realm. And as you can see on the screen, there's a slide with instructions for how to give. And the direct link will be in the chat box. Please designate whether you'd like your donation to go toward your pledge or toward our offering recipient. This information is going to be posted again at the end of the service. Thank you as always for your generosity. And now Mike will play another piece of music by our youth.
I can't seem to focus and you don't seem to notice I'm not here. I'm just a mirror to check your complexion, to find your reflections alone. I had to go. Can't you hear me? I'm not coming home. Do you understand? I've changed my plans.
wanna get to know myself. I know supposedly I'm lonely now. No, I'm supposed to be unhappy without someone. But aren't I someone? To be your answer. Be your answer. 'Cause you're so handsome.
But I know better than to drive you home. 'Cause you'd invite me in, and I'd be yours again.
Morning, everyone. So when I was 12, I went to Row Camp for 2 weeks. Many of you know Row. I know some of you have gone. It's a seriously awesome place. Row taught me about spirituality, friendship, family, activism, and so much else. I really learned what it meant to be a Unitarian Universalist. One evening while there, we were doing a mock protest where we made signs and came up with chants to march with. At the end of the road, we stopped and people started to call a response where one person would call something out and the rest of us would shout it back. When it came to me my turn, I called out, "Donald Trump is human too." The response I got from that was not the enthusiastic, "Donald Trump is human too," that I was expecting from this group of UUs. Instead, I was greeted with, "Donald Trump is human too?" I mean, I was really confused. Yes, we all didn't like Trump, but just because we don't like someone doesn't mean that they aren't human, right? On the way back up to the cabins, I was thinking a lot about what happened. I'd paid attention to enough RE to know about the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism, and wasn't the first one about affirming each person's inherent worth and dignity? Didn't that apply to everyone? Even those who we fundamentally disagree with and find it really hard to listen to? I think it does. Now, I'm not trying to change your mind about Trump or even talk about him for that matter. But as Unitarian Universalists, we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person. This does not mean you have to become best friends with your worst enemy, but it does mean that we have a commitment to try our best to honor people's humanity, regardless of how we feel about them, and give ourselves permission to listen when we can. This can be really hard to do. This is why there are organizations like Braver Angels, as you heard India talk about during the offertory. Braver Angels is a nonprofit that facilitates respectful conversation between people who come from different backgrounds and have different ways of thinking. It goes to workshops, trainings, and other discussions online and in person when there isn't a global pandemic. The other night, I went to a panel of theirs where people were just chiming in to ask questions, and they were answered by both a Democrat and a Republican. And they had sometimes conflicting statements, but there was no malice in them. These people really listened to and respected one another. This was absolutely beautiful to watch. It reminded me of my desire to be able to have genuine conversation with people who have opposing views from me, and those who are not like me. Like, I don't want to be stuck in the mindset of hating and dehumanizing the other. Talking politics is a hard place to start the humanizing process. Talking about common interests and experiences, however, that's a really good way to get to know someone as a person and as a part of the interconnected web of life that ties us all together. I'm not saying that we have to listen to everything that everyone says. Far from it. When someone has hurt us, we have no responsibility to look past it and love them blindly. However, we do have a commitment as Unitarian Universalists to recognize their inherent worth and dignity and their deservingness of love and someone to listen to, even if that someone isn't us. my brother, he likes to play his fife and recorder really, really loudly, and it hurts my ears, and sometimes I just want to yell at him. And then I remember that he is still human. He's still my brother. Of course, this does not mean I want to listen to him play. I recognize that there are some people who actively enjoy his loud mouth music, and he deserves that audience. But that audience is not me. Of course, sometimes I do end up yelling at him because his music is so loud and our house is just not big enough to escape it. But then I do end up apologizing because every person has an inherent worth and dignity, and it is my commitment as a UU to recognize that. So in situations like these with my brother, it's fairly easy to remember his humanity because I know him, and it's only a recorder. I've heard some people say that listening to people who don't believe in our values mean that we are compromising our integrity and wasting our time. I do not believe this to be true. If anything, I would say it's the opposite. If we value love and acceptance, then listening to people and practicing loving and accepting them is actively strengthening our values because we are putting them into action and working on becoming the people that we say we want to be. My boss and I, we have different political views, and let's just say we don't see eye to eye on most issues. However, this did not stop her from consistently and enthusiastically supporting me through my years of gender exploration. In turn, our differing beliefs have not stopped me from being kind and open with her, because at the end of the day, we both really love what we do and work well together, regardless of our politics. Friends, we are Unitarian Universalists. We see the interconnected web of life of which we are all a part, and we must remember to treat every person as they are, flawed, human, and above all, worthy of love and deserving of a listening ear. Regardless of who people are and what they do, they're still human and are still deserving of the same love and respect as we are. So how do we practice seeing the humanity in people? In situations like the one with my brother's music, it's fairly easy to remember his humanity. But in other cases, we aren't ready, willing, or equipped to see the love. For example, it's hard to even theoretically realize that the guy who cut you off when you were driving the other day is actually human. It is so easy to write him off with, that stupid evil person doesn't even know that I have places to be, and have done with it, But I'm going to encourage you to look past that. Might he have been in just as much of a rush as you and been muttering an apology as he drove away? Can you imagine him at home joking around his dinner table with his family and share in that common feeling of laughter? It is so easy to dehumanize that driver and forget that we are not the only people on the road and in the world with lives and destinations. But to look past that guy's bad road etiquette and acknowledge his humanity is much more true to our values as UUs. It's easy to say this in the context of a driver that made no significant impact on your life. It's much harder to do when it's in a context that is very personal and sensitive for you. I know that I certainly have trouble humanizing in these situations. It often takes me years to get to a place where I can acknowledge the people who have hurt me and that they're just as deserving of love as I am. I know all of you have these people in your lives too. You have the people you can recognize as human and sometimes even forgive easily, like my brother or that driver. And you have people that have taken you years to acknowledge, and you, like me, have people you're still trying to find the humanity in. Wherever you are in this process, you are okay. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. So it may be hard to see people for who they are, but that is no reason for us to stop trying, whether it takes a minute, a day, a month, or many, many years, because each person has an inherent worth and dignity and is just as deserving of love and listening as you and I are. It is not our personal responsibility to love and engage with everyone in the world. But one of our guiding principles as Unitarian Universalists is to see the love inside of everyone. We do not need to listen to everybody's recorder music, but it is always good to recognize that someone else might want to. Friends, I ask each of you to go forth this week and look for someone you can practice seeing the human in. Whether it is someone you live with, a stranger on the street, or maybe even someone it's harder for you to see the humanity in, remember that they deserve love.
Thanks, Ray. That was great. It's time for our second hymn. It's Come and Go With Me. We'll have the lyrics in the chat box for everyone. Please sing along.
So now I invite you all to say the call to ministry with me. You might find the words in the chat box to the right. We go forth into the world in peace, to act with works of love, to affirm each person's dignity, and to cherish the living earth.
So why do we always choose to hate something that we don't understand? And why do we resort to fighting with what we don't agree with? And of course, this is a benediction, so I don't really find it fit to delve into a deep question that's incredibly difficult to answer. But instead, I can offer this thought. This hate and lack of understanding ultimately stems from fear. And the way to combat this fear is to be curious and to listen. And this act of listening is curiosity as well as respect in action. And by listening, we remember the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Sure, you don't necessarily need to agree with the person to whom you argue with. Conflicts have always and always will create divisions, and while you are not forced to agree with the other person, that doesn't mean they do not deserve listening. Listen when you can, if you can, to yourself, to others, to those you agree with, to those who you do not, and to make sure that you acknowledge the humanity and worth and dignity of those whom you conflict with.
Thank you, Ben, for that. And thank you, Ray, so much for our sermon today. So friends, I invite you all to stay for our virtual coffee hour. After, of course, you stay for our postlude, which is a fun little ditty that we all created together. We'll be splitting you up into breakout groups after the postlude. So if you'd like to stay for an informal 20 minutes of conversation with about 8 other people, please stay through the end of the postlude, and we hope you join us there. And now our postlude.